George Anderson asks, what will happen if you keep digging down? Very interesting question. You know that kind of mood. You sit, look at your feet and think, what if I just take a shovel and start digging? And I don't stop. Just digging and digging. Where will I end up? To China, as they said in childhood, or maybe to the middle of nowhere. Let's just imagine for a second this absurd but terribly interesting experiment. Honestly, first without magic, and then with magic, because otherwise we wouldn't even get 2 kilometers. Let's go. The first thing we'll face is plain physics. Let's say you're a super motivated dude with a shovel. First goes soft black soil, then clay, sand. You dig for an hour, 2. I once tried to dig a well at my dacha. Honestly, I gave up at the depth of 3 bayonets. By the second meter, you'll realize it's hellish labor. But we're persistent. We dig day and night, get helpers, put up supports to prevent collapses. At a depth of about 10 to 15 meters, the ground temperature stops depending on the season and becomes constant, around plus 10 degrees Celsius. A bit cold, damp, but livable. Then the most insidious enemy appears, not monsters, but pressure and heat. The Earth's crust is, God willing, 30 to 50 kilometers thick, but already at a depth of 1 kilometer, the temperature rises to about 40 to 50 degrees Celsius. It's like a sauna. And what to breathe? The air becomes heavy, like syrup. You stand in a narrow shaft, drenched in sweat, and realize that the shovel dulls against rock, basalts, granites. This is not your garden. This is where real numbers come into play. Humanity has already tried to answer the question, what's down there? Let's remember the Kola Super Deep borehole. It's not a mine, just a narrow hole that they drilled for almost 20 years. Depth, 12,262 meters. That's only 1/500th of the distance to the Earth's center. A dot, a tiny scratch on the planet's skin. And guess what happened? At 12 kilometers depth, scientists expected to see temperatures around 100 degrees Celsius, but got 180, and the rocks became as plastic as clay. The drill got stuck. The rock, imagined as a dense monolith, behaved like viscous caramel. The hole simply healed back. So if you're standing with a shovel underground at a depth of a mere 12 kilometers, it's not just heat around you, it's a hellish oven that melts machinery. What dig further can we even talk about? You turn into charcoal just from the temperature of the surrounding rock, even without an open flame. And the pressure? It's so intense that any air pocket would collapse. Your mind would just crush itself, the walls closing in as if nothing ever happened. But it's boring to stop at realism. Let's turn our imagination to the max. Imagine we have an absolutely indestructible shovel. Let's call it Norilsk Nickel Dream. And a spacesuit that withstands any pressure and temperature. And you, an immortal mole. You cut through those 12 kilometers like butter, go through the crust and dive into the mantle. The mantle is 80% of Earth's volume. It's solid, but on geological timescales, it flows like a glacier. You'll find yourself in a mass of white-hot crystalline material. It's pitch dark and incredibly quiet, just you, your shovel, and the crunch of peridotites. Speaking of time, if you dug at a steady speed of, say, 1 meter per hour, which is a lot, you'd have to dig for about 727 years to reach the Earth's center. 727 years without sleep or rest, swinging your arms. Doubtful adventure, right? But the real treat starts when you pass the mantle and encounter the outer core. It's liquid. It consists mostly of molten iron and nickel. Temperature, like the surface of the sun, 5,000 to 6,000 degrees Celsius. A shovel won't help there. You don't need a shovel there, but a submarine for metal. You just swim through a raging ocean of magma. This movement of metal creates Earth's magnetic field, our shield against radiation. You're literally inside a giant dynamo. And here's where my mind was blown when I studied this question. You think, well, I'm digging down, so gravity pulls me toward the center, makes sense. But physics is trickier. The deeper you go underground, the weaker gravity becomes, because the mass of the planet that is above you also starts pulling you upward. At the very center of Earth, gravity would be zero. You'd just float in weightlessness. Imagine you're at the planet's center, floating inside the inner core sphere, which, by the way, is solid iron the size of the moon, watching your shovel fly around next to you. You, core man. But we wanted to dig constantly, so we pass the center and start digging upward or downward. Here's where it gets confusing. You start moving away from the center, so you're again digging down relative to yourself, but actually you're climbing up toward the opposite side of the planet. Famous thought experiment. If you dig a tunnel through Earth and jump in, you'll fly to the other end in exactly 42 minutes. Without an engine, just by gravity, accelerating to the center, then decelerating to the surface. If you don't rub against the walls and burn up, you'll pop out the other side like a cork, and gravity will pull you back, an eternal pendulum. And where will you pop out if you start digging from your city? The childhood myth, "I'll dig to China," only works if you live in Argentina or Chile. For most residents of Russia, the US, and Europe, the antipode is in the ocean. If I start digging from Moscow, I'll come out somewhere in the southern Pacific Ocean, between Antarctica and South America. There's nothing there but waves and icebergs. I picture this scene. You break through the depths, emerge from a hole in the middle of the ocean, seawater pouring off you. You hold the shovel over your head and shout, "I did it!" And not a soul around. Only a penguin somewhere in the distance stares in confusion. But since we've dreamed about the Earth's center, let's dig even deeper, metaphorically. What does digging down even mean on a cosmic scale? After all, our planet is a tiny crumb. If we continue this vector, go through Earth and keep flying into space, we'll exit the solar system, falling into emptiness, but gravity is also a kind of hole. What if we dig not with a shovel, but with our mind? Knowledge is like a mine. The deeper you dig into a subject, the hotter the arguments become, the stronger the pressure of responsibility, and the more malleable the truth. And sometimes when you reach the core of the problem, you discover that gravity has zeroed out and you float in the weightlessness of confusion. That is science. So what if you constantly dig down? You'll hit heat, liquid iron, zero gravity, and finally the Pacific Ocean. Nature has done everything to keep us from ruining the planet with a hole all the way through, and that's wonderful. The planet protects its secrets. But the childhood urge to dig is not stupidity. It's our innate desire to find out what's hidden. We are all a bit like those moles with an imaginary shovel. And as long as we ask, what if? Our personal universe has no boundaries. But for today, perhaps that's enough digging. We've gone too deep already. I'll go have some tea. And in the meantime, don't drop your shovel down the shaft.